Jeff Mead, thanks for that. You're watching Sky News on our website, skynews.com, giving the fans their say. The winners, losers, plus all the gossip from the red carpet of an award show voted for entirely by British fans. And still to come, we'll have more on our top story. Joanna Lumley taking on a so-called MOD smear campaign with the Gurkhas right behind her. We'll talk to her live. You're watching Afternoon Live here on Sky News. Our top story today, at least 38 people are dead after two explosions at two central Moscow underground stations during rush hour. Moscow's mayor and the country's security service say both attacks were caused by female suicide bombers. The first blast hit a train in Moscow's Lubyanka station just before 8 a.m. local time. 25 people were killed and 15 injured. A second hit Park Kulturi at 20 to 9 local time, killing 12 people. Let's get you up to date with the rest of our main stories now with Gillian.
Anna, thank you. Joanna Lumley has responded angrily to what she calls a government smear campaign about her support for the Gurkhas.
Gillian, thank you. Let's find out what the weather's up to out there now with Lisa.
As the dry condition extends over Amritsar, we'll find a blend of flavours to tempt your palate.
Hello. Through the course of late afternoon, the rain is going to continue to affect many areas.
Qatar Airways, world's 5-star airline.
So with less than 6 weeks to go before the expected election, the Conservatives have pledged to undo Labour's planned increase in national insurance. Well, from Westminster, we're joined now by Sky's political editor, Adam Bolton. Adam, how important is this move by the Tories in terms of setting out the battle lines for the general election? Coming up next here on Afternoon Live, kicking up more legal trouble for himself. There's more bad news for Gaza. Time for a business update now. Here's Darshini.
Thanks very much, Anna. Let's start off with some banking news. Never again. MPs are calling for what they describe as a radical overhaul of the banking system to make sure that taxpayers never have to foot the bill for another bailout. We're up to speed now with the business news. More later. Back to you, Anna.
This is Afternoon Live here on Sky News on our website, skynews.com. Why Kylie toned poster girl for a new breast cancer campaign. We'll have more on that, and also here on Sky News, more on our top story, the campaign by Joanna Lumley and the Gurkha Justice Campaign against what they describe as smears by the Ministry of Justice. We'll have more on that coming up shortly. Coming up on Afternoon Live, terror on the underground. Moscow's metro comes under attack. We'll find out who's being blamed for the blasts. Also, tightening the purse strings. New rules on MPs' expenses mark the end of an era in Westminster. Plus, why Uma's latest on-screen offering is proving to be the mother of all flops. That's coming up. Here's Isabel first, though, with the weather.
Qatar Airways, world's 5-star airline.
Good afternoon, it's 3 o'clock. Leading the news this hour, death on the underground. Female suicide bombers target the Moscow metro at rush hour, killing dozens. We're live in the Russian capital as President Medvedev orders a security crackdown and Islamic insurgents are being blamed. Also coming up on Afternoon Live, not irritatingly silent. Joanna Lumley slams a government minister for an alleged smear over her Gurkhas campaign. The war of words in the war on drugs. Another government advisor resigns in the wrangle over banning legal highs. The economy's stupid. The Tories pledge to limit the government's national insurance increase, but Labour says it doesn't add up. Gaza charged. Former England star faces counts of drunk driving and driving without insurance and a licence. And black gold. Oil is found in the Falklands, but it's probably the wrong kind.
Live from the Sky News Centre, this is Afternoon Live with Anna Jones.
Hello and welcome to Afternoon Live. Our top story here today: we will fight terrorism without hesitation to the end. Those are the words of the Russian president after 38 people were killed in suicide blasts at two of Moscow's busiest metro stations this morning. More on that story a little bit later. In the meantime, though, let's fill you in on the rest of the day's news now with Gillian.
Anna, thank you. The former England football star Paul Gascoigne has been charged with drink driving, followed by 8 months of radiotherapy and chemotherapy.
Now, Joanna Lumley and supporters of the Gurkha campaign have this afternoon been responding to what Joanna Lumley described as a government smear campaign against her. You're watching Sky News. Coming up, we've got all the day's sport with John, including under fire. But Zola is determined to carry on at West Ham. That's coming up.
Minute by minute, day by day, 24/7. All around the Gherkin is where the action is. For business on Sky News, this is the right place at the right time. We are now within reaching distance of Britain's financial powerhouses. It gives us access to the people who really matter. We are closer than ever to risk and reward. If you want to find out what's going on, it's a good idea to go there. Sky's new location gives us a competitive edge.
Time for today's sports news. Here's John, and we're starting with a little bit of trouble at West Ham.
East End of London, West Ham United, with Gianfranco Zola, who's their manager at the moment, saying he is determined to carry on as manager of West Ham United. I mean, let's be honest about this. It'd be daft if he said, do you know what, you're all right, I am rubbish, I'll go now. That's some going. That's a lovely pink
So
ball
it's
if you're
working
about
for somebody.
Yeah.
OK, John. Good stuff. See you in a little bit. Thanks for that. Now, still to come here this afternoon, we'll have all the latest pictures from Moscow after a pair of deadly blasts strike the city's transport system. You're watching Afternoon Live here on Sky News. Our top story here today: at least 38 people are dead after two explosions at two central Moscow underground stations during rush hour. Moscow's mayor and the country's security service say that both attacks were caused by female suicide bombers. The first blast hit a train in Moscow's Lubyanka station just before 8 o'clock in the morning local time. 25 people were killed and 15 injured. A second hit Park Kulturi at 20 to 9 local time, killing 12 people. We'll bring you more on that story throughout the afternoon. In the meantime, though, let's fill you in on the rest of the day's top stories with Gillian.
Anna, thank you. Joanna Lumley has responded angrily to what she calls a Ministry of Defence smear campaign about her support for the Gurkhas. 9 other boys will appear later this afternoon.
Time now to find out what the weather's doing out there. Here's Isabel.
As a slight chill spreads across Melbourne, we'll find a way to perk you up.
Well, not great on the weather front, really. A lot of wet weather around today. Stronger easterly winds developing as well across the north, so it's quite cold out there too. Only 4 or 5 degrees, for example, across southern Scotland and back across the north of Ireland. And down to the south where it's a little milder in comparison, it's wet as well.
Qatar Airways, world's 5-star airline.
Now then, we're going to take you now to Gordon Brown, who's making a statement at the moment about the forthcoming meeting in Brussels, last week's meeting in Brussels. If you want to carry on watching that, just press the red button on your remote control. It's on our active service. Now, with less than 6 weeks to go before the expected election, the Conservatives have pledged to undo Labour's planned increase in national insurance. Kevin Maguire, good to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed. Let's fill you in on all the business news now with Darshini.
Thanks very much, Anna. Well, the boss of British Airways has promised customers that he'll keep the airline flying despite the threat of more strikes by cabin crew after Easter. Meanwhile, the Unite Union says it's planning to raise £700,000 to support the strikers by imposing a levy on its other members. Well, you're up to date now with the business news. More later. Back to you, Anna.
Darshini, thank you. See you later. Coming up next here on Afternoon Live, the Drugs Advisory Board is set to relay its verdict on the legal high methadone. That's coming up in the next few minutes.
It's 8 o'clock, the latest from Sky Newsreader.
The Sky News Snow Report. Sponsored by InsureandGo.com Travel Insurance.
Hello there. Snow for the Scottish ski resorts tomorrow. Some heavy snow and a strong northeast wind. Much colder air sitting across Scotland actually this week. Further to the south across the Alps, well, there's been a load of snow over the weekend. It's still pretty unsettled. A bit mixed. Some days there will be sunny, some will see some snow. But there's been, about 35 centimetres of snow at Val d'Isère over the weekend and 50 centimetres in Teen. And if you search the webcams, you'll just see beautiful scenes, loads of snow around. It is a little dodgy, it has to be said, at the low altitude resorts, but the high altitude resorts doing very nicely.
The Sky News Snow Report. Sponsored by InsureandGo.com.
You're watching Afternoon Live. Let's update you on our top stories here today. 38 people have been killed in 2 suicide blasts on Moscow's metro system this morning. Joanna Lumley takes on the MOD over an alleged smear campaign against her and the Gurkhas campaign team. And the Unite Union plans to tax its members to raise £700,000 in support of striking BA cabin crew. Now, 25 deaths have now been linked to mephedrone, the plant food also known as meow meow, which users take to get a legal high. Now, in the next hour, the government's own advisers look set to recommend banning the drug. But yet another member of the Advisory Council on the Misuse of Drugs has resigned. Dr. Polly Taylor quit her unpaid post, saying she feared the government wasn't treating the panel independently. Well, our Home Affairs correspondent Mark White is at the Home Office in central London. So, Mark, how much do we know about what this advisory panel is going to say? I'm going to stop you there. Mark White, thank you for that. And ACMD Board will be presenting its advice to the Home Secretary at around 4 o'clock. We'll have full response as soon as we find out the advice. Stay with us. Coming up here on Afternoon Live, terror on the underground. Moscow's metro comes under attack, but find out who's being blamed for those blasts. Also ahead, tightening the purse strings. New rules on MPs' expenses mark the end of an era at Westminster. Plus, why Uma's latest on-screen offering is proving to be the mother of all flops. That's coming up. First, though, here's Isabel with the weather.
Qatar Airways, world's 5-star airline.
Good afternoon, it's 4 o'clock. Leading the news this hour, death on the underground. Female suicide bombers target the Moscow metro at rush hour, killing dozens. We'll be live in the Russian capital as President Medvedev orders a security crackdown and Islamic insurgents are being blamed. Also coming up on Afternoon Live, not irritatingly silent. Joanna Lumley slams a government minister for an alleged smear over her Gurkhas campaign. The war of words in the war on drugs. Another government advisor resigns in the wrangle over banning legal highs. Unite's unprecedented plans to tax its members in support of striking BA cabin crew. The economy's stupid. The Tories pledge to limit the government's national insurance increase, but Labour says it doesn't add up. And Gaza charged. Former England star faces counts of drunk driving and driving without insurance and a licence.
Live from the Sky News Centre, this is Afternoon Live with Anna Jones.
Hello and welcome to Afternoon Live. Our top story here today, we will fight terrorism without hesitation to the end. Those are the words of the Russian president after 38 people were killed in suicide blasts at 2 of Moscow's busiest metro stations this morning. Amanda Walker there in Moscow, thanks very much indeed. And we'll of course keep you up to date with all the latest developments on that twin bomb blast throughout the day. But in the meantime, let's fill you in on the rest of the day's main news stories with Gillian.
Anna, thank you. The Unite Union says it plans to raise £700,000 to support striking British Airways cabin crew, followed by 8 months of radiotherapy and chemotherapy.
Gillian, thank you. Now, Joanna Lumley and supporters of the Gurkha campaign have this afternoon been responding to what Joanna Lumley calls a Ministry of Defence smear campaign against her. The actress spearheaded a victory for campaigners last April. More on the Tory plans in just a moment. First, a little bit of breaking news on that Gurkha story. We understand that the Prime Minister, Gordon Brown, has had what's been described as a positive telephone conversation with Joanna Lumley earlier on today, in which he expressed regret over critical comments made by the Defence Minister, Kevin Jones. That's according to a statement out from Downing Street. And it has to be said that when I talked to Joanna Lumley a short while ago, she had no argument with Gordon Brown. It was Kevin Jones and the Ministry of Defence that she felt angry with. But nevertheless, Gordon Brown has had this positive telephone conversation, we're told, and he's expressed regret over those comments by Kevin Jones in which he said he was irritated by her deathly silence. He as well has apologised unreservedly today. So anyway, let's go back to the Conservatives' plans for a partial reverse in Labour's national insurance rise. You're watching Sky News. Coming up, we've got all the day's sports news with John, including under fire. But Zola is determined to carry on at West Ham. Time for all the day's sports news now. John Desborough has joined us. And Gianfranco Zola having a bit of a stressful time.
Yeah, I'll come to him in just a second, but we've been hearing in the last few minutes from Michel Platini. He's the top man in European football.
See what you did there?
Or from me a bit later.
Fantastic stuff. John, thanks very much indeed. You're watching Afternoon Live on our website, skynews.com, giving the fans their say. The winners, losers, plus all the gossip from the red carpet of an award show that's voted entirely by British fans. That's online. Meanwhile, still to come here this afternoon, find out why Gaza's due back in court next month. And coming up next on Afternoon Live, Moscow's metro may be back up and running, but at what cost? We'll speak to a terrorism expert on the ongoing threats within Russia's borders. That's coming up. Darshini, thanks very much indeed. Coming up next here on Afternoon Live, a record-breaking flop. Why Uma Thurman's latest flick isn't making the sound of music. Let's just bring you a little bit of breaking news coming into us regarding a meeting that's going on at the moment between the Advisory Council on the Misuse of Drugs and the advice that they're giving to Alan Johnson at the moment. Now, we understand that the advice that they have given to him regarding methadone, the drug that has been linked to several teenage deaths in the last few months. Now, what they've said is all cathinoids, including methadone, cathinoids is the type of drug that methadone is classified as, they are advising that it be classified as harmful and be classified as a Class B drug. So that's the advice being given to Alan Johnson. It's now up to him whether or not he does outlaw that drug and give it that classification. And we'll try and find out that a little bit later on. But that's the breaking news coming into us from that meeting for the moment. Now then, let's find out from Jeremy what he's got coming up at 5 o'clock.
Thanks very much, Anna. Fab and angry, Joanna Lumley goes into battle for the Gurkhas again, this time against a campaign of smears and false allegations. And Clash of the Titans Mark II, we're going to be live on the red carpet for the UK premiere of the latest 3D movie. Plus all the other big stories and pictures tonight. See you at 5 right after Anna.
Jeremy, see you shortly. Now then, Uma Thurman's latest big screen offering has been anything but a blockbuster. Motherhood, a film about a stressed-out mum, has closed in the UK after just 11 people turned up to see it on its opening weekend. Not the kind of audience numbers the Hollywood star is used to.